Our main speaker, Warren from Prescott Valley.
Thanks, sir. My name's Warren. I'm an alcoholic. And this is as far as I get dressed up. This is my tux shirt from when I got married 25 years ago. I just couldn't throw it away. I paid $20 for it. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a life far beyond my reaches, far beyond my intellect, far beyond my capacity to learn or do anything. And it had to be spoon-fed to me. It had to be given to me. This is the grace of God, not Warren learning a new skill. And what that means is, when I got here, I was the broken remnants of a person. I wasn't anything or anyone would want to know. This is my birthday month. From my first meeting in 1990 to this, I haven't had a drink, pill, or fix. And believe me, before that, it was a dumpster fire. And let's start at the beginning. My mom, I was an only child to a single mother in the 50s, and my mom liked to move. So I did 12 years, 12 schools in 3 states. And the only reason was she liked to go. And if she wasn't happy, even in the middle of my 9th grade year, we moved across town. So I had to go to another school. And for a chameleon, don't want to be known, wallflower that sticks to the side and just wants to be left alone, angry person, that worked out really well because I could just be somebody new all the time. But for an alcoholic, it wasn't a lot of emotional, spiritual growth. And what I mean by that was my brother, my mother, and my aunt, her sister, her son, and her mother all died within 7 months when I was 10 years old. And I'm just left with all these crazy people. And I'm already genetically an alcoholic. And couldn't figure out why my anger just took off. And by the time I'm 12 years old, I'm panhandling for Boone's Farm. And back then it was 65, 75 cents a bottle. Took me about 2 hours to get 3 bottles. And nice town, Palm Springs, California. And then sports started at 14, got into football. So now I'm a weekend drunk, and by the time I'm 13, I'm trying acid, I'm smoking pot, I'm anything you got. I'm just a trash can. It was, what do you got? Let's try it. And normal people aren't like that. You know, normal people, that's not what they do. They have some type of training, even though it was the 60s, that tells them that this may not be a good idea. So I absolutely, the morals, the usage of anything and anyone and any place to get what I wanted started very early. And that's what I mean by that. And so I go through high school, and we've now moved to Corpus Christi, Texas. And I catch all my size from 5'6" to 6 foot even over a summer. And I go from 160 pounds to 190 pounds of muscle because we've been in football camp all summer. And I was a little mean, to say the least. There was an 18-year-old that named Phil Graywonder that he liked to take me out to bars. And if you can walk into a bar in Texas, you can drink in the 70s. And it also means you're up for a fight, if that's what happens to be the agenda for the day. So I got more hurt in that 9 months of living in Corpus Christi, Texas than I'd ever been hurt in my whole life. I broke a hand in 3 places, 3 concussions, both ankles, both knees, repeatedly sprained, twisted, all kinds of fun stuff. And just the weekends started turning into pills and lots of booze. And it was just accepted. I was on the varsity, and as an 11th grader in Texas in the 70s, that wasn't heard of very often. And it was only because Phil Graywonder, basically an all-state, all-American for 4 years, liked me. That's all it was. He was the head linebacker, and I was a junior nothing, and he would run over there, do this, hit him. And I would. I wanted to be accepted so bad I'd do anything. Didn't matter what it was. And on the regular day in the week, you've got 4 booster club girls, 3 cheerleaders, 5 bubble and hula hoop girls that all decorate your locker and make sure your homework is up to snuff and help you along your way when you're a senior in football in Texas. And that's the way it is. And at least it was then. And that didn't help an alcoholic like me, because I absolutely didn't reveal or feel anything emotionally. I was just angry all the time and hurting anyone and being just as nuts as I possibly could. Sounded like a good idea at the time. And so we go, my mom decides she doesn't like it in the South, turns around, and for my senior year, we go to Hawaii. And I was there for 10 years. And I called living in Hawaii living in fields with guns and dogs. And the reason I say that is because I grew almost all the 10 years I lived there. So, and by that I mean pot. And living in that lifestyle with a gun ready to shoot somebody if they take your stuff. Living with a dog that you're ready to sick on somebody at any moment. Living in a tent or a tarp or moving your everything, hauling water, living that way, watching out for helicopters, stuff like that. It was just a means to taking me and twisting me in a very strange way. And by this time I've done every type of drug I know of. I've been doing every type of psilocybin that you can possibly come up with. I've been doing every kind of acid you can come up with. It was all the time, just living that lifestyle and not wanting to feel and dying inside all the time. I lived in paradise, and I hated it. And I couldn't appreciate it. Body surfed every day, worked a couple small jobs. One of them was diving off of a pier, gathering sea urchins to put on a glass-bottom boat. And I had it rough, I just, whole time I just wanted to die. And at 19, I just wanted to get out of there. And so I joined the service. And that was the craziest thing I could have done, because that just took an alcoholic and turned him pro. And I can't be fired unless I do something really stupid. I can't quit. I can't run away. I can, but there's real heavy consequences to all those. And basically they give me a paycheck every week or 2 weeks and a place to sleep and something to eat. So it's tailor-made for a drunk. I go those 3 years, heavy violence. I'm an acting jack sergeant on an experimentation base, living with a Samoan and an Indian in the barracks. And we're 3 sergeants, and we run that place like absolute fear. And when we're posting guys to guard duty or whatever it is and doing our jobs or whatever it is, we throw our weight and everything else and drink on the weekends like there is no tomorrow and fight each other, somebody else, didn't matter. And all of that just helped to bury Warren. It just helped to bury who I was. And I went through those 3 years. I got sold right to a narcotics officer on the post, undercover. And thank God it was just Thai stick and hash, and it was under an ounce, and got a good lawyer. Just immediately didn't think of stopping like a normal person might think of slowing down or stopping because they've gotten arrested and put in jail. No, I went and got 10 pounds and flooded the base and paid for a lawyer. And the lawyer got me convicted in the state of California for possession and then hit the Army with double jeopardy. So what that means is that I got out with an honorable discharge, and probably didn't deserve it. Probably still do. But I did my best in the service. I went years later. I was there, and I can't believe I was an engineer. I was a draftsman for the experimentation company. We put the engineer company to work every day, and I did 210 drawings in 2 years. And that doesn't have anything to do with all of the name tags, graphs, charts, everything like that I also did, and worked for the newspaper. And that was out of fear. That was out of fear of you finding me out and rejecting me totally. My sergeant and my captain loved me because I did my job, and I must have reeked on a daily basis. And you know, that's how those years went. And then I get back to California, and I'm in Palm Springs area. And I think speed is a really good idea. And what speed did for me was make it so I could drink with absolutely no thought of blackout, no thought of pass out. I could drink a half gallon in 3 or 4 hours. Didn't matter. And I was selling that stuff and moving girls around and stuff like that. Just, you trade things and you do things morally bankrupt all the time. And I don't ever want to think too deeply or too in depth on that subject or those subjects. I've done enough inventory work, and I've looked at those things with another man. And see, that's what we need to do in here. We need to talk, we need to write down, and we need to look at all of those things that bring us to our knees and bring us into these rooms. If you're here and you're just uncomfortable, good. God, I don't know what the hell you're doing here. Because I came in here just absolutely beaten by alcohol. I grabbed a girl about 1986, and we walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous together. And those 5 years were some of the worst. I quit the speed and I just drank all the time. And I quit the pot and I just drank all the time. Because I was tired of sitting on idiots' couches. I couldn't, I dealt everything, I'd grown everything, I'd played every dealer game that you could play. I didn't want to sit on your nickel and dime couch waiting for you to go get that shit. And so I absolutely couldn't take it anymore, and I'm down to doing side jobs. I'm a draftsman. My brother's 18 years older than I am. He's a carpenter. He taught me to be a carpenter on regular jobs by the time I was 15. Basically right then, 1988, at the end of the speed and the heavy drinking started, I couldn't sweep. I did not have it together in my head enough to sweep a room without leaving some or walking away or not being able to handle it. It just didn't make any sense anymore. Nothing did. And I walked into the rooms in 1990. My girlfriend and I started to have some problems, and we went to this lady, and on the way home from this lady, she was a counselor. On the way home from this lady, we'd smoke a joint. Or she'd smoke a joint and I'd have a half pint. And then one day the lady said, you know, I really love you two, and you guys are really interesting, but I wish you'd do something for yourselves. You know, they have this thing called AA, and that's the first time I'd ever heard of it. I'd never, ever heard of it. And this is in 1990. And we get home, and I finish my bottle, of course, and I ask her, what do you think? Should we try that? She says, yeah, I actually know where meetings are. A girlfriend of mine is in that. I said, she is? Because she was just as big a drunk and pothead as I was. And I walked into the room, and it was called Fellowship Hall in Palm Desert. And I sat down and I listened. And a 22-year-old girl, at the time I'm 34, told my story with my exact emotion, with my exact trauma, with my exact everything, almost word for word. And I just started crying because I knew I was someplace that they could do something about it, because she was 8 months sober. And that was crazy. And I said, I got to keep doing this. She, okay, I don't think I need that, she says, my girlfriend. And I says, okay. And a year later, we just kind of looked at each other and went, who are you? You know, and what are we doing? And kind of just walked away from each other. Nobody did anything. Nobody, for the first time in my whole life, you know, I didn't blow it up, burn it down, run away from something. And by then I found my sponsor and started working these steps, started taking commitments. And let me stress that commitments saved my life. At a small group, I was the greeter at a place and I was the this at another place, but that wasn't a real commitment to me. You know, I was a helper. I was a coffee helper. Only if they didn't show up, then I'd do their job. And This small group, about 7 people, asked me to be the coffee guy. And they gave me a whole box with the coffee maker and the coffee and the sugar and everything in it. And I had to haul that in my car, take it out, and bring it back. A little Catholic church, Palm Desert. And I showed up every week, and I did that commitment. And sometimes I didn't want to go, but I knew I had that commitment. So I did it anyway. And about a month and a half later, the secretary goes, give me that box. And I go, oh, man, you're going to take my commitment? I was heartbroken. He says, and so I moved it over and I started putting everything in, and I absolutely did, everything kind of grudgingly, and just, kind of tossed it in, and he reached in his pocket and pulled out the keys and gave me the key to the place. And he says, yeah, we want you to be the secretary. And I took that commitment and I did that for 2 years. And it was basically because those 7 people didn't want to do it anymore. They were tired. And thank God I did that, because that got me into that level of service. I started to understand. I started to read, and I started to do. Trial and error. I did it badly, but I learned. I didn't quit like I wanted to, of course. And I went and talked to my sponsor, and about 6 months later, got my first sponsee. Guy walked up to me and said, Warren, will you be my sponsor? I said, you got to be kidding. In my head. I said, you got to be kidding. What would you want that I have? And we started talking, and we talked about all the similarities, and we talked about where we'd been and what we'd done and where we are now, and darndest thing, that's what it's like, what happened, and what it's like now. And we just did that at that time, and I didn't have a huge fear until we got to step 3. And then I ran to my sponsor and said, what in the heck do I do? He says, you stay a page ahead of him. And basically, I had to keep my reading up because I had no retention. This is the first or second year of sobriety. I had no retention. I couldn't retain anything. My mind was like a sieve, a steel trap and a sieve. And just absolutely loved it, and it didn't take that time. And I kept doing it, and guys kept asking me because they saw me doing it with somebody else. And then, darndest thing, I'm sitting across from this guy in this coffee shop. We're doing this 4-step, and I see the lights go on. He lights up. I look around, what the heck's going on? And I got it, that AA works, and that I was a channel of his peace. And that it wasn't me. It was the words in that book. It was the feeling that we get in that AA meeting. It was the action that we were taking. It wasn't me trying to think my way into new living. It was me living my way into new thinking. And I had to do this over and over and over and over again. And that guy has 28 and a half years of sobriety. I didn't do that. He did that. God did that. AA did that. I got to be part of it. I left there in 2010 because of the recession, and kept in touch. Today, my sponsor lives in Louisiana, and he has over 40 plus years. And I want what he has every single day. I want what Alcoholics Anonymous has every single day. I love doing this stuff. I love seeing the light come on. I got involved with a really strange group at 12 years of sobriety. We would take about 30, 40 guys through the steps in a weekend. All 12 steps in a weekend. But we always prefaced it, and at the end of it, post. We would say, now, do these steps with your sponsor. You've done it once, you can do it again. It was a thing of you getting into the habit. Get the meeting habit, get the book habit, get the steps habit. There was a guy named Bob Lane, and he was an old Swedish guy, and he died at 84. And the reason I remember him so well is he was 34 when he got sober, and he had 50 years when he died. And he played the piano with Cab Calloway, both of the Dorsey brothers, all of the 1920s people. He did all of the smoking pot back then, everything. And his best saying that everybody knows him for is, get the meeting habit, man, get the meeting habit. And he still had a Swedish accent to the day he died. And it was just one of those things. You're going to go through your sobriety, and you're going to remember little things here and here and there and there, and different stories and different people. You know, this is one person giving it away to another. This isn't a book and these things behind me, and that's it. This is one man giving it away to another man. In my case, it's one woman giving it away to another woman. It's whatever the case may be. Today there we, or whatever that's called, and who cares? It's a thing of, I don't need to be a judge of anything. I need to see if you want what Alcoholics Anonymous has and are willing to go to any length to get it. Not me, Alcoholics Anonymous. And when that becomes true for you and you're willing to do anything to get that, and alcohol has absolutely beaten you into submission, we're standing here waiting any day, you know, and we want to give it away, and we want to do this trip together, you know, and walk this. There's a couple of really funny sayings in Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the broad highway and the path narrows. And, you know, that, but basically what that means to me is that we walk this together. And you never ever have to do this alone, and you never ever have to take a drink again. Thanks.
Let's give another big hand to our speaker tonight.